Namaste. Welcome to your Somatic Yoga Fusion. We'll begin by lying down in a comfortable, reclined position.
If you haven't already, wiggling the shoulders down slightly away from the ears, rolling the shoulder blades slightly in, maybe sliding the arms further away from the body, just enough to where you can feel the majority of the surfaces of the backs of the arms and shoulders, making contact to the mat and the floor or any other surfaces beneath you like props. And then maybe just gently drawing the chin towards the throat ever so slightly, not to congest the hollow of the throat or the front of the neck, but maybe to add a little bit more length through the back and the sides of the neck. Softening down through the eyes, they may close, or maybe it feels better just to allow the lids to be very heavy as they draw towards one another. Just trying to really relax the eyeballs in their sockets. Smoothing any furrowing of the brow and traveling that sensation of relaxation slowly down the body, relaxing the hinges of the jaw, the tongue. Just noticing the coming and goings of sounds that come in and out of your awareness, and recognizing the spontaneity of the sounds. As we begin to pay a little more attention to all areas now of the physical body resting heavy, releasing, beginning to pay a little more attention to the ebb and flow of breath. There may be times when you arrive on your mat in your practice and you really just settle in without a lot of effort. Maybe you're well rehearsed. But even if you are well rehearsed, there may be days, moments throughout your practice where it's really challenging to keep the mind in the present moment. I think it's important to practice not judging or criticizing ourselves when we have those more challenging days. Just going a little more with the flow. And instead of criticizing or just wanting things to be different, judging, practicing non-attachment to whatever does arise. So once it does enter your awareness, no matter what it is, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, we notice it as it arises, maybe gently looking at it as we're on the outside looking in, without that judgment, with more compassion, kindness, and then we let it go. Maybe returning to something that anchors us to the present moment, gently, with grace, like the breath, the physical body. Noticing where the body's receiving the breath, what expands on the inhalations and softens on the exhalations. Maybe you haven't really been paying attention to the breath since you arrived in this pose. If you have, maybe just noticing if the breath has changed organically by just arriving into our physical body, into the present moment. It might just organically begin to slow down and lengthen, or maybe it becomes more shallow. And no right or wrong, just noticing your breath. Notice at the end of your exhalations if the body really relaxes, or if there's holding of tension, or if the inhale is a little quick to arrive before the exhale feels complete. Maybe beginning to extend your exhalations if you feel like they're not fully complete, or maybe you can just lengthen them out ever so slightly so it doesn't feel forced or challenging. Just noticing how this breath feels, if there's any changes, and if there's any clinging or of tension or holding in the face as a result of focusing on our breath. Or if our body or mind is starting to speak to us because it's challenging to be still this long. Taking just a few more rounds of breath like this. And then at the end of your exhalation, or when you're ready, let's just begin to wiggle through the fingers and the toes, or maybe spreading them wide, adding a little flexion through the heels, maybe pointing through the toes, just any kind of movement that feels good through the fingers, the toes, the hands, the feet, the wrists, and the ankles might start to get involved. And you might even start to add a little rock of the head from side to side. Maybe the fingers, hands, feet are still moving. Maybe they relax as we focus a little more on how the neck is feeling as we bring this gentle rock from side to side. And just like our breath, do we tend to turn the head back to center before we allow it to fully fall to one side? And can we begin to just really work with our breath, moving on our inhales and exhales and pausing in the space between the breath to really land in each pose in that brief moment of stillness? Good. Once you're ready, bringing the head back to center. Let's just begin by taking a bend into the knees, planting the heels below the knees, toes pointing towards the bottom edge of the mat, maybe picking the hips and pelvis up and just lowering them back down to a more neutral position. And you can either bend the elbows, bringing the hands to the chest, or keep the arms down at the sides. Again, whatever's comfortable, maybe a hand at the belly, a hand at the chest, just bringing some awareness to your heart, no matter what position of the arms, keeping that breath rhythmic and easy, and just taking a moment to tune in to your heart space to set intention for your practice today. Maybe staying closed through the eyes and reclosing through the eyes throughout your practice to really take it all in as meditation in motion. Good. Once you've repeated your intention, let's wiggle the feet in to touch the inner edges of the feet. Release the arms, keeping the shoulder blades connected to the mat. Let the arms come up over the chest. Again, the neck is long. We're going to clasp the hands if available. You can release the index finger and just again relax the shoulders, settle the ribs down into the mat, the feet and the knees just gently drawing in towards one another, finding your breath. Again, maybe staying closed through the eyes. We're going to begin to move with breath. As we inhale, we're going to slowly float the arms up overhead as we drop the knees away from one another to Baddha Konasana. And as we exhale, we're going to slowly draw the knees in as we extend the arms back over the chest towards the sky. So when you're ready, finding that rhythm of breath, and then as you exhale, arms come up. Nope, inhale, arms come up, knees drop open, and then using your exhale. And you can move it the other way if it feels better for you. Just nice and slow again with your inhales and exhales. Fueling your movement, and then in that space between the breath, and it'll be different in length for each of us, pausing, really trying to relax the body in that space between the breath rather than anticipating the next movement. Smoothing out any areas of stickiness or rigidity. And we'll just move through this just a couple more times. Once the knees do come together, don't rush it. Just complete your cycle. The arms reach back up over the chest. Just pause for another round of breath. And then let's drop the elbows slowly down out to the sides. Maybe the fingers open as the palms rest on the abdomen, or relax the arms in your own way. We're going to heel toe the feet to the width of the mat, turning the big toes slightly in and just allowing things to drop toward the midline. Again, just finding a place where you can just soften into your body without a lot of effort in holding anything here. Relax your jaw, close the eyes if you can. And just observe, maybe you kind of feel that trail of movement still vibrating in some way in your body. Noticing again your breath. Good, and then after your next exhale, we'll just heel toe those feet back in so the knees are stacked over the ankles, and we're going to begin by lifting the right foot, drawing the knee towards the chest, maybe both hands clasp around the knee or behind the knee, around the thigh. You can relax the right ankle here. Just taking a few rounds of breath, just relaxing the shoulders heavy, making sure, again, the neck is long, and again, doing your best just to soften areas of tension. Anytime you acknowledge it creeping back in, you can start to extend the left leg down the length of the mat if it feels okay. So we're going to begin to move with breath again here, and we're going to kind of flow from side to side. So what we're going to do is keep the left hand at the right shin, and slowly, so we'll do this really slow before we get into momentum with breath. We're going to slowly extend the right arm up just to where it's comfortable there. So we're gonna inhale, right knee in, reaching the left leg and right arm, inhaling. We're going to exhale to soften, releasing the right leg, lengthening the left arm, taking the right hand over to the left knee and extending the right leg and left arm, pulling the knee in to lengthen again on our inhale. So we're transitioning on the exhale as slow as you need. And if that breath doesn't work, just the inhales and the exhales to transition and flow, then move in your own way. Maybe both knees drawn in before you cross the arms. So again, you'll just kind of get into your own rhythm, or maybe both feet are planted before you draw the opposite knee in. And we're lengthening out through that opposite arm and leg as we inhale, stretching it out. So again, just getting into your own momentum. Don't worry, as long as it feels good in your body and makes sense to you, it doesn't have to look like the way I'm moving or anyone else around you. And just really beginning, once you get into the momentum and you don't have to think about it so much, really start to pay attention to how these movements feel in your body. As you draw one knee in, where do you feel more space? Maybe through the opposite side or waist of the body, between the ribs and the hip. Notice what peels away from the earth, the mat. Notice where things shorten. Like as you pull the one knee in on that same side, you might shorten between the rib and the hip where the other side expands. And just pay attention to the shoulders, making sure the neck stays nice and long. We'll just flow a couple more times on each side. And when you feel evened out, let's just let the arms come out to cactus, drawing the elbows slightly lower than the shoulders, realigning the head and neck. Your choice if you want the legs to be extended or if it feels good to bring the knees to a bend. Again, you might heel toe the feet, turning the big toes in and just settling back in, relaxing back to those finer muscles and body parts as they may just kind of hold that tension a little longer, those habitual areas, slowly letting go of that tension. As we come back to observe, be the seer rather than the doer in this stillness, noticing. Good, and then nice and slow, we'll begin to draw the elbows a little further down towards the ribs. So maybe the arms are back out at the sides like in our typical Shavasana. We'll heel toe the feet back to about hip distance apart. And let's just begin to add that rock from side to side. You might start to feel the desire to adjust the feet a little wider, just experimenting with how that feels with the feet wider as the knees rock from side to side. Maybe it feels better in your body. Maybe you experiment with bringing the feet closer together and experiment with how that feels. Maybe you begin to add the opposite turn of the head, inhaling everything back to center before allowing the head and knees to fall in the opposite directions. Maybe you gradually allow the knees to fall heavier or increase the length of pauses and length of holding. Good. And then when it feels right, just bringing everything back to center. We'll heel toe the feet in toward one another if they're not in already. Press into the feet, pick up the hips, sliding the hips over to one side a few inches, and we'll just make our way into that fetal position on one side of the body, taking a pause here. So again, not anticipating coming up, slowing yourself down, relaxing. Where is there still tension lingering here in anticipation of rising up? And after your next exhale, whenever that completes, very slowly transitioning your way up, we're going to come up to a cross-legged position. So just taking your time to come up. You can prop something under your bottom if that's more comfortable, whatever helps to find a tall spine, neutral pelvis. So maybe it's even rolling your mat a few times to give yourself a little bit of a lift depending on the thickness of your mat. Or just kind of rocking from side to side, pulling the fleshy bits back and away where you'll feel those bones anchor down. And again, crossing the legs in your own way. We are opening up across the front of the shoulders, looking at our posture, as many of us tend to round forward. So that might require effort, but we're not pushing the ribs forward. Give a little wiggle to find that ease. And just take a few rounds of breath, maybe finding a drishti point beyond the top edge of your mat in front of you, or closing back down through the eye, tuning into your body's rhythm of breath and just feeling your body continue to soften into this new pose, feeling rooted and grounded through your root center. acknowledging your relationship and connection with the earth. Knowing it will get and trusting it will get easier with time and practice. Good. We're going to begin by releasing the right arm down to the right side, just beside the hip, extending it out without locking the elbow, maybe the fingertips ground down. So we're not shifting through the upper body. The shoulders are still relaxed wherever that arm reaches down to make contact to the mat. We're going to cross the left hand over towards the right shoulder here. So just taking the right shoulder with the left hand, and again, just relaxing back down through the arms. Good. Take a nice big breath in through the nose. As you exhale, start to walk the right fingers in behind. So really pull in through that low belly to keep the length through your spine, and feel your chest begin to open up towards the right edge of your mat. Maybe once the right fingertips or hand are more behind the hip, the head comes a little bit further. Feeling that nice opening through the left side of the neck. Again, the shoulders are relaxed down. We're pulling in through that low belly to protect your back and keep length between each vertebrae of the spine. And check in that you're not twisting the hips. They're anchored in a more square position towards the top edge of your mat. So the left hip's not pulling forward because we're twisting from, say, the navel up. Good. Take one more inhale. As we exhale, unwind as we walk the right fingers back beside the hip, and maybe they weren't that far behind. We're all going to be a little different. It's okay. Once we come back to where we started, we're going to lift the forearm on the left side, bringing the fingertips of the left hand towards the right ear as we drape around the crown. Take a nice big breath in to grow tall. Pull the low belly in. Exhale, left ear towards the left shoulder. And then take the right hand back to the right thigh and just begin to very slowly roll out through the right shoulder. Doesn't matter what direction you go in. Again, just being mindful to stay heavy and anchored down through the lower body, and just really experiencing this movement you're bringing in, making sure it's very gentle and kind, non-harming, ahimsa. Making sure you're not pulling on the head or neck. We're just supporting here. And when it feels right, we'll reverse direction of the rotation through the shoulder. So trying to allow this movement to come from the shoulder, letting the lower arm just dangle heavy down. Good. Circling one more time, coming to pause, and then slowly extend the right palm out to the right. A little softness to the elbow, wrist just below the shoulder. And we're going to do the same thing. So it's going to be a little more challenging to allow that movement just to come from the shoulder in whatever direction you want to start in. Gentle press through the palm, but relaxing the best you can through the arm, and then reversing that. The neck is relaxed, even though we're opening up through the right side of the neck. Good. One more time. And then slowly release the right palm to the right thigh. Lift the head back to center as we float the left arm up, and then mindfully allow the left arm to come down to connect to the thigh. If you need a little wiggle or movement here, you want to change position, maybe more to hero pose, or at least just releasing to cross the legs in the opposite direction. If it's available in your body without pain, find your sit bones once again, reaching the fingers out to the side, pulling the low belly in, lengthening up through the crown. Finding your breath as you soften into this pose, keeping that stability and length through the spine while finding ease. Good, and then we'll lift the right hand to cross it over towards the left shoulder, taking a bind there, and then relaxing back through the shoulder. So making sure you're not pulling the left shoulder forward, we're staying open across the upper chest and collarbones. Soften back down, relax your jaw, find your breath, relax the legs heavy. Good, and then pull in through the low belly, rising taller on our inhale. Walk the left fingers in behind from the navel up. We're twisting, but we're not allowing the right hip to pull forward. And try not to let the shoulders round forward. Stay broad, even if that means you can't bring the chest more open towards the left side of the mat. Pause before the shoulders round, and then maybe take the head a little further if it's available. Relaxing heavy, especially through the right thigh and knee. Nice, slow, easy breaths. Good, one more inhale. And we'll use that exhale to slowly unwind as we walk the left fingers back beside the hip. The neck comes last. Good. You can keep, or bring rather, the left hand to the left thigh. Bring the forearm of the right arm up around the crown, reaching the right fingers towards the left ear. Relax your shoulders. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, slowly draw the right ear to the right shoulder without pulling on the head or neck. And if you find you keep doing that, lift the hand away from the head. Just keep it floating or relax it down. Okay, so the shoulders are still broad at the front of the body, and we'll begin nice and slow with those circular rotations through the left shoulder, allowing this movement to come from the shoulder, trying our best to really relax through the upper elbow and lower arm. When it feels right, taking that reverse of direction. Once you're ready, pause, and then slowly lift the left arm out to the left, gently pressing through the palm with a bend at the elbow. The wrist is slightly lower than the shoulder. As we just bring that movement into the shoulder once again. It is helpful to stay close to the eyes. So if it doesn't feel forced, just that reminder to close back down. And we'll reverse that movement now. One more time. Once you've paused, take a breath in and out. And then slowly lower the left arm down, picking up the right, bringing the head back to center before floating, then the right arm down. Good. Bring the hands back to the legs in some way to rest. Give a little wiggle or roll the shoulders out a few times, maybe a little more vigorously, just letting tension go. We're going to begin to come into somatic breath work from here. So if you're still comfortable here, you're welcome to stay, or you can grab some props to come into hero pose if you're just feeling like you need to change positions. So we'll come into a different position if possible, just any pose where you're feeling tall through the spine. And setting up props if you feel like that's more supportive in your body. We'll get a little stretch through the quads here as well. So we're doing the same thing. We're feeling our roots. We're feeling really grounded down. We're feeling the pelvis in a nice neutral position and pulling up the low belly, but softening those ribs in, the shoulders down and relaxed. So this breath, it might be helpful to bring hands to the belly. Like as we inhale, we're going to really push the belly out And as we exhale, we're going to pull it in. So it's going to be kind of a forceful breath, but I don't want you to feel like you're going to hyperventilate. I want you to take full inhales and exhales, even though it's a little more forced. So I'm going to practice with you, and it might take me a few to kind of get that rhythm, and then you can play along. You can follow along, or just join in when you're ready. And if at any point in time it feels too uncomfortable, or you feel a little anything that's uncomfortable, it just doesn't feel right, then you can pause and just come back to your easy breath. Okay, so it's going to be like this. Whenever you're ready, joining in. Maybe closing the eyes. Slow it down if you need to. Just a few more rounds. Last one. Let the belly soften. Let the arms come back down to the sides. The eyes can be open or close them down. Maybe you tuck the chin slightly. It just might feel better to kind of counter with that tucking in of the chin, and just again soften down through the eyes. Relax your jaw. Come back to it in a more easy, organic breath. And just again, notice sensation that arises on the surface of your body, or below the surface of the body, or in the hollow of your body. Wherever you notice sensation, stay with that, observing. Maybe there's a tingling sensation somewhere in your body, like the hands or the fingers. Notice if you feel a little energized, or maybe something completely different. Good. After your next exhale, gently rise the head up. If it feels good, you can part through the eyes until we're ready to come into our next movement. So we're going to reach the arms forward, roll the shoulders down and back. Again, we're mindful of that neutral spine and pelvis, which begins at the pelvis. And then we're going to cross the right arm under the left, intertwine for our eagle arms. We're going to pull the upper arms in towards one another to feel that engagement. You can reach for opposite shoulders if it feels too uncomfortable. Lift the elbows just below shoulder height, roll the shoulders down and back, and there might be more space to be made between the forehead or brow and hands. Good. So shoulders rolling down and back, upper arms drawing in, ribs tucked in, finding our breath. Good. Beginning to move with breath if it's in your practice, keeping the lower body stable. So think of the shoulder blades up, moving. As we inhale, lifting the elbows just to where it's comfortable. The head might lift as well. And as we exhale, bringing it back down just to where we started. Readjusting in between sets if you feel like the arms are pulling away, or we're really rounding out through the shoulder blade area on the back of the body. Want to keep that broadness and space through the front of the thoracic chest, as well as the thoracic area of the back body. Maybe as the arms lift, you pull the low belly in even a little more to protect that back body and prevent flexion through the lower spine. Good. On your next exhale, once you bring the elbows back down in front of the chest, relax the shoulders down, take a few rounds of breath. And then slowly slowly unrelease or release rather the arms, bring in the hands to the thighs, and just give yourself a little roll out, maybe a drop of the chin towards the chest or any movement that feels good. We'll come back to center to start, just finding ourselves in that neutral tall spine position. Good, and then when you're ready, float the arms back up at chest height, shoulder height. Bring the left arm under the right and we'll reverse. So either hands to opposite shoulders or reaching to intertwine the arms. And again, just fine tuning, shoulders drawing down and back, upper arms drawing in, elbows slightly lifted and hands slightly pressing away. Checking back in with your spine, pull the low belly in more if you feel any kind of compression through the back. Good, and if it's in your practice today, we'll flow with breath. The neck can stay stable if there's any kind of tension going on in the neck that doesn't feel good to move. Otherwise, we'll let the head move with the arms slightly up and using our exhales to come on down. Pausing if you kind of start to feel tension creeping into the body, just to relax and fine tune the pose before flowing once again with breath. Notice if you're rushing it, if the breath can be a little more lengthened. Just completing the cycle that you're on to come back to center, staying if you can for a full round of breath in and out, relaxing any, again, areas of holding. And then ever so slowly releasing the arms, letting the palms come back to the thighs, and just rolling out or adding some movement of the head and neck. Maybe a combination, reversing any movement that you take. Good. Let's get off of our bottoms finally, setting anything off to the side where you need space. And we're going to come over onto the hands and knees. So adding a little cushioning underneath the knees if needed, if any kind of pressure there causes pain. So finding your tabletop pose. Once you've got the joints stacked, just again focusing on the fingers spread wide, the low belly pulled in just enough to where you feel that neutral spine, those natural curves stay in the back body, but nothing too exaggerated. Look over the right shoulder and send the right leg out to the right. The toes might point slightly out or they might turn forward, whatever's comfortable through the joints. We don't want to force the direction of the toes, something that feels good and fluid when we start to move. You can keep gazing at the right big toe if you like. We're going to take a nice big breath in as we exhale. We're going to lunge towards the right, drawing or aiming the knee towards the heel. It might not stack over, that's okay, but just not dropping in or turning the knee outward, more towards the heel as we lunge to the side. Maybe you kind of start to draw half circle with the hips as you get into this kind of movement. So just kind of flowing with breath, not fully extending the leg or hyperextending the knee joint. You want to maintain a little bit of softness there. And same with the elbows. Notice if you're really hyperextending the elbows, try to find some softness there. If it's too uncomfortable to turn the head in this direction, you could certainly bring it back to center and let the head and neck flow along with the spine. Good. We're going to do that one more time. You can keep moving like this if you like, or take a different pose or movement altogether. But once we come back with the right leg more extended, so we're back in on four limbs-ish, we're going to curl the left toes and push back into down dog, softening the right knee. Now you can flow in and out of this pose, dropping the knee and pushing back, or once you're lifted, just kind of draw some little movements through the knees, maybe rocking from side to side or pushing back, or maybe you're drawing circles with the whole spine, if that makes sense, allowing the elbows and knees to soften as needed. Good. Notice where you feel more space in your body. And when you're ready, we'll push back into that really awkward downward dog shape before slowly releasing the right knee down. We'll take the gaze back over towards the right leg and then tuck the knee in. Just for a moment, maybe walk the hands back, and you don't have to put weight on the heels if that causes pain in the feet or maybe the knees, but you can pick up one wrist at a time or lean back to roll out through both wrists. We'll come back over onto the hands and knees when we're ready. This time, keeping the right knee grounded, we'll look to the left and send the left leg out. Again, turning the toes to wherever is comfortable. Finding that neutral spine soft through the joints. Take a nice big breath in as we exhale. Begin to draw our lunges, or maybe you're kind of drawing those circular motions through the hips. So as we come back, the right hip might draw a little more down towards the right heel to complete that half circle. But again, elbows are soft just as we flow. Good. And then when you're ready, we'll come back to where we started. We can bring the head back to center, curl the right toes, and on an exhale, if it's available and feels safe in your body, extend back and just explore any movement that feels good. Notice what feels awkward, what feels smooth, what feels good, what doesn't, avoiding what doesn't. Just working on hip mobility and range of motion. Of course, releasing unresolved tension and emotion that we hold in our tissues and muscles. And then when it feels right, slowly releasing the right knee down, looking over towards the left big toe before tucking the knee in. So we're back in that tabletop pose once again. Let's take a nice big breath in through the nose as we exhale, round our spine, let the head hang heavy. Inhale, belly draws down. We lead with the chest as the tail and chin slightly lift, not too forcefully, throwing the head back. As we round the spine, feel that space between each vertebrae. Maybe we start to add a little more movement, sinking the hips a little back towards the heels as we round the spine to cat. And as we drop to cow, we kind of roll forward as we lean through the chest. Just again, getting any kind of momentum going in your body, working through any discomfort with deep breaths and maybe closing your eyes, letting go of the ego, exploring your body and your movement and your breath. Good. We'll end on an exhale, rounding out through the spine, taking another extra moment or breath here to just wiggle out through the head and neck, letting it be heavy. Big breath in and big breath out. Bring ourselves back to neutral spine. Bring the big toes together, knees wide. You know where we're going here. Walk the hands back till the hips sink towards or touch the heels. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Doesn't matter. Let it go. And just slowly release your body back or down towards the mat in child's pose. Notice if you wiggle a little from side to side, you might feel the ribs and the heart begin to settle a little closer towards the earth. And again, that release of tension. Let the space between the shoulders be nice and soft. Maybe dropping the elbows wider will help you find a little more softness there. It's an area we all hold so much tension. The top of the shoulders, the back of the skull, especially with all these devices that we're often on. All down through the neck. And again, that space between the shoulder blades, just slowly softening a little heavier. If the breath is shallow, lengthen it out. Option to stay where you are or pick up the head on your inhale. Walk the hands all the way over to the right, maybe walking the left fingers further away. Notice how you like to rest the head here. I tend to rest the left side of my temple on the upper arm, or sometimes drop it in the space between the arms. So pay attention to the neck. I feel like it gets neglected a lot through our days. Making sure it feels comfortable and just feeling heavy through the left hip as we feel a little more space, more of a lateral stretch through the left side of the body here. But again, nothing is forced. Good. After an exhale, very slowly bring the head back to center as we pick our heads up. We'll walk over to the left. Same thing. We're rooting through the right sit bone, so we're not losing that connection or depth through that hip. If it doesn't make contact, it's okay. Walk the right fingers further. Maybe the right hand is placed on the back of the left. And then check in with the head and neck, softening in, soften the joints. Feel the space now through the right side of the body. Maybe a longer, fuller breath in. A complete full breath out. Before lifting the head, coming back to center, we're just going to walk the hands back towards the knees now. Again, you can keep your weight on the heels if it's okay to do so. You can bring the knees a little wider, not any wider than the distance of the width of the mat, or maybe a little closer, whatever feels good. Pull that low belly in. If the shins towards the knees or the knees pop away from the mat, ease back up. You could use your blocks here as well if the floor is not close enough for you. And we're just going to start to walk the hands back. So maybe they come to either side of the feet. Again, maybe we use our blocks, and we can use them at any height we like. We're just going to open the front line of the body again in our own way, feeling a nice stretch also through the quads and length. The shoulders might pull in, but we're not pushing the ribs forward. We pull the low belly in, and then option to drop the head back with control. We're not just throwing it back. We're doing so very mindfully. Maybe then we feel the chest, upper chest just kind of expand slightly. Finding your breath, maybe in through the nose and out through the mouth. If there's any strain or pain in the neck, of course, we don't have to drop the head back. We can keep the chin tucked. We're still opening up around the chest, the solar plexus, the abdomen. And if it's available and feels good, you might lift the bottom away from the hips just to get in a little bit more. Again, keeping that low belly pulled in, especially if you're lifting the hips or you feel any kind of compression through the mid or low back. Take a couple more rounds of breath if you can where you are. And then after an inhale, we'll begin to transition out, first by lowering the bottom towards the heels. Pause for a breath in and out, slowly tucking the chin towards the chest if you haven't already. And then we'll very mindfully come on back up. And we're not counterposing right away. We're just bringing the head back over the heart and the heart back over the hips to pause, because after those big heart openers, we don't want to counterpose right away. We want to just come back to witness and observe what arises in our own bodies and awareness. Good. When you're feeling okay to do so, flutter the eyes open if they're closed. We'll start to lower our bottoms down to the mats and extend our legs towards that bottom edge of the mat, maybe coming a little closer just so we know we have the space. Keep your props close by. I may incorporate them, or you may incorporate them in some way, and especially your strap. And we'll just bring ourselves down to the mat. Good. Let's reach for the strap, and with the knees bent, We'll draw the strap around the sole of the right foot before extending the right leg towards the sky and just lengthening out the neck and grounding through those shoulders. Taking your time to gently draw the thigh in towards the torso as we exhale, and just finding those little movements with breath, releasing or extending the elbow slightly so the thigh and leg draws a little further away from the torso as our body expands with breath. Good, and then we'll come to stillness, bringing both ends of the strap into the right hand. Option to keep the left knee bent or extend the leg long, adding a little bit of stability through the left side of the body. On our next exhale, so fill up first, and exhale, let the right leg fall out to the right. So try not to let the heel pull down away from the crown unless it feels better in your body, but just being mindful to just keep a gentle stretch here, nothing too forced, but know that you can adjust the right leg, lowering it towards the bottom edge of the mat, raising it up towards the top edge of the mat to what feels good for you. And again, less is more, not more is more. Good. After an exhale, we'll float that right leg back up towards the sky. Switch the straps into the left hand. Lay the right arm long to help support that contact and stability of the right shoulder to the mat. And as we exhale, crossing the right leg over to the left, same thing. If we draw the leg further up, we'll feel more sensation. If we let it fall further away, we'll feel less. So we want to find that sweet spot where we're not forcing. And then do your best to relax through the left hip. You might notice you clench there. Really relax that leg now. If you want to stay a little longer, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we're going to slowly bring everything back to center. Option 2, once you're back, no rushing it, to bring the left leg up to meet the right and then release the right foot down. Or maybe you want to touch both feet down before lifting the left leg into the strap. Again, we're all going to be a little different. We've got different things going on in the back and the hip flexors. So whatever feels good for you. We'll just start with those little movements with breath, not going to be here too long. And then we'll take the ends of the strap into the left hand. The right knee can stay bent or extend. And we'll use an exhale to let the left leg open up. And just feeling grounded and stable through the right side of the body. Good. And then nice and slow, drawing the left leg back up, maybe more using the muscles of the legs and core. We'll switch the ends of the strap into the right hand, lay the left arm out to the side, anchoring the shoulder down. And on an exhale, so take a big inhale and then exhale, cross the left leg over to the right. Now you might notice the left hip starting to or completely stacking over the right, and we'll just bring awareness to the right hip and glute to remind ourselves to let that tension go. We don't have to have contraction to hold here, or we shouldn't have to. Maybe we support the leg or let it drop further away from the top of the mat to help relax the right hip. Again, maybe you stay a little longer. You're moving in your own unique way to honor your own unique body. Or very slowly, if you are ready, just bringing everything back to center. If you came into the side by bringing the opposite leg to meet the lifted leg, maybe you bring both legs up, just add a little rock from side to side, but don't peel the sacrum away from the mat. Let it be anchored and heavy down. Good, and then come on back to stillness. Release one foot down to the mat. Bending the opposite knee, just remove that strap, setting it off to the side. Let's lengthen out our bodies, sending the toes to the bottom edge of the mat, reaching the arms overhead. Again, lumbar spine anchors down. We're not arching too deeply through the back. Keep lengthening through the fingers, opening and spreading the fingers away, but draw the shoulders down, activate that core, and feel length in a more activated way. Breathe in, feel up, 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 up. One more time. And let it go. Relax your body. Notice the form it takes, how deep the elbows bend for the backs of the arms to surrender. And maybe it feels good just to stay here, wiggling, adjusting, maybe to create a little more space in specific areas, or maybe you reach for your bolster to place it underneath your knees here, using your props in a way that you'd like to, and just finding your final resting pose, whatever it looks like. Maybe it's just traditional, taking a slight star shape in your body. Finally, once you're feeling a little more settled into your body and your pose, and then adding that little tuck of the chin, no matter where you are, feeling length through the neck. Let's take one more big filling up breath in, gather any lingering tension you are holding, and let it go. Allowing the breath to resume and allowing your awareness to drop into observation, letting go, letting go, letting go. Touch the timeless rhythms of life. Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. It sang to my soul. I walked through the canyon, viewing the remnants of the culture, touching, seeing, experiencing what was left of their sophisticated society, a civilization over 2,000 years old. I felt reverence and humility as I touched the stones of a culture that no longer existed. I could almost see the people who lived there busy with their work, their relationships, their goals, their fears and hopes, just like us. I wondered if they knew that someday their society would be extinct, gone, vanished. I wondered if they knew how important they were, how each of us plays a tiny part in the eternal dance of the universe. It's so easy to become consumed by the details of our lives, to be impressed with the technology of our own society, to get lost in the business and busyness of our ways. But it's important to remember ancient cultures, other civilizations, others' lives lived long ago. The lessons of our planet, the timeless lessons of love and life. I wept with wonder, awe, and joy at how important yet humble each of our lives is. My soul vibrated with the awareness of eternity, with the infinite rhythms of life. I lingered at Chaco Canyon, not wanting to leave. A still voice whispered to my soul, reminding me that I could return as often as I needed and wanted, because this place was now a part of me and part of my heart. Allow your soul to awaken. Allow it to soar, touch the timeless rhythms and cycles of life. Perhaps you want to linger and stay in your Shavasana longer. Come out in your own time and way. Otherwise, if you're ready, begin to slowly bring little movements back into the body, just taking a few rounds of breath to stretch, to squeeze, to pause, to wiggle, to rock. And only if you're ready, finding your way in a fetal position on one side or the other, pausing there to take at least one slow, full round of breath. And when it feels right, slowly once again rising up to find your seat rooted down in some way, nice tall spine. Relaxing the shoulders, the face, the jaw. And if you'd like to join me, bringing the hands together at the heart. Noticing how you feel in all the layers of your being. You are not just this physical body. You are not your thoughts, your emotions. The light within me sees and honors the light within each of you. Namaste.
Thank you so much for joining me here today. Please like and subscribe for more content. Namaste.